Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I'm your host, Florence Adu, and I am in an exotic park. Can you imagine, folks? How did I find an exotic park in the middle of Accra? Well, you're going to have to stick around to find out. Let me give you a little bit of background on the reason why I'm here. So, my guests are the co-founders of Destination Africa, which through programs, workshops, DVDs, channels, live streams, and other merchandise offers a wealth of knowledge in African languages, culture, heritage, and lifestyle. They are a dynamic duo with backgrounds in software engineering, the hair and fashion industries, and professional basketball. The Destination Africa journey began for one of these founders once he became a father with the decision to apply his passions to inspiring and empowering the next generation of young leaders. As a homeschooling mom, the other founder is also the main facilitator for Destination Africa. She uses her energetic, coordinated, innovative, loving, exciting, and disciplined teaching style to deliver results, while her partner uses his IT skills as the technological mind behind all things Destination Africa. Abena and Ekow Richardson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor.
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to guess it's you, Abena, that was the professional basketball player.
No, how could that not be?
when she retired, she parks the lower part of her legs.
This is it. Yeah.
Right. But no, it's quite obviously, guys, she's sitting here very beautifully coiffed with a lovely mane of hair. I love your outfit.
Oh, thank you.
So clearly she's in the hair and fashion, or has a background in hair and fashion.
Well, she says that, guys, but I have to say I was inspired by Florence today, and I'm glad I didn't let her down, because if you could see her today, woo!
There'll be trouble.
There'll be trouble.
All right, folks, let's get right to it. So let's start with where are you from, where are you local, and what are your crafts?
Oh, okay, absolutely. You go first?
Oh, ladies first.
Does this all the time. It throws me in the deep end.
Yes.
So as you aforementioned, I'm Abena Richardson, half of the Richardsons.
Yep.
I am the mother of 3 children who is local, did you say, to Ghana now, but originally was born in the UK, raised formally in the UK, partly raised in Ghana, went back to the UK, and I'm back where, I wanted to be, so to speak. What is local to me now, I guess, is the culture of Ghana.
Okay.
Trying to build the country, do my bit for the country with hubby and the community around us.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And what would you say is your craft?
my craft is to inspire the next generation in becoming the change that they want to see. So,
Yes, and myself, Ekow Richardson. So I was a British Ghanaian, born in the UK. Again, similar to Abena, I lived a few of my informative years in Ghana before returning back to the UK, where I there stayed till we were married, had children, and had a passion to inspire the next generation through language and culture. I have, again, as you mentioned, a history in IT and basketball, and I've sort of transitioned some of the skills and some of the values which I've learned into, inspiring the next generation and pushing forward. What is local to me is wherever you are, being that African and being a proud one at that, wherever you are around the world.
Okay. So let me dive a little bit deeper, because you both have the UK accent. So you cross paths there. That's where you met, I'm assuming.
actually, no.
Yep.
It was all here. Yeah.
Okay. One of those probably holiday trips.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, but tell us where you grew up in the UK.
Okay, so we both grew up in South London.
Okay.
And then made our way through to Kent before we came back to Ghana permanently.
Okay.
So we're Londoners.
Okay, so tell us about Destination Africa. That is ultimately how you have relocated from the UK to Ghana.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that journey. How did you you both have this concept of wanting to inspire leaders and have young people be that change. So where did that spark come in your beings, in your hearts?
It actually probably first sparked when we met, I think.
Oh, okay.
We met in Ghana in 2003.
Okay.
And started to form a friendship. And I remember when I first met Abena, she could always speak Twi, and she could speak it fluently, almost like she'd lived in Ghana her whole life.
Yeah.
And it really, it struck a chord in me, because I didn't really speak Fanti. I could already speak about 20% at the time. And I just remember as we were courting, when we got married, I said, you know what? I want our children to be able to speak our mother tongue. Whether we live in the UK, whether we migrate anywhere else, they need to be assured in their language. Because for me, as a youngster, language was only important to speak to your parents, you know, or maybe, you know, when you're getting told off, you can understand when no one else can. Or it had, you know, not to get cheated by a taxi driver or another Ghanaian. But I didn't really grab onto or grasp the full concept of what language did for me. It was my heritage, it was my culture, it was my connection to my history, to my grandparents and the lineage and the culture, idioms, art, law, so much. But I didn't have that appreciation. And when I got that awakening moment, it sparked something in me, which I said, you know what, I need to ensure that my children, first of all, are not stuck in that place where you grew up in the UK or in a foreign country and you assimilate and assume you're British or American. But the history says, you know, your skin says you haven't been here that long and you're originally from somewhere else. But at the same time, where you're originally from, you don't fully identify. You can't bond with it. You can't accept it. So you're somewhere in between. You're half and half. And that causes a bit of a split personality in you. And it's not nice when you get that awakening in your 20s or 30s and you realize that half of my inheritance I've missed. And so from there, we said, you know, we want the children to learn African languages, learn about the continent, learn about, you know, the potential, because everyone says Africa is the future because of the resources, both human and natural. And we wanted to make sure children were aware of it. Don't just sit in the UK or America and think that's the world. You know, learn more, understand about different cultures, who you are, historical people who've touched the continent, and that was the birth of Destination Africa. So, I mean, I'll pass on to Abena to take us on a journey from where it started from to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, he's more or less covered quite a bit of it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think when we had children, primarily when this dream was birthed in him and he had this vision, what we didn't realize was that when the children have their identity, it's almost like knowing exactly where they're coming from so they can navigate where they're going. And I remember we read a saying by Marcus Garvey not so long ago that if somebody has confidence in themselves, then if they don't have confidence in themselves, then they're twice defeated in this race of life. But if they do have confidence in themselves, then they've won before they've even started. And I think with many people, when they go over to the West, you know, just to different European countries or American countries, they take their culture with them. And so those that do take their culture with them are the ethnicities that we see winning. You know, they're doing so well and they're thriving and we haven't quite worked that out yet. So it's almost as though we kind of give our narratives over to people who want to define it to fit their mold, to benefit them, so to speak. So we're told, oh, don't have your children speak your language, it's only going to confuse them. Don't teach your children your culture first. So we almost throw ourselves away, superimpose a foreign matter on top of us, and then we regurgitate that with our children, and then because everything is cyclical, they then continue it. And it's almost like having new recruits without having to train them, because you train their parents, the parents just give it to them and then they give it to their children. And so the beneficiaries are those coming after those people. And those who are losing out are those coming after us. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do to change this? You know, because you can only talk about this so often. You can only talk about and complain about things so often. So when we started to teach our children their languages and their history beforehand, we could notice a significant amount of confidence in them. And again, along the way, we learned that even the word confidence doesn't mean to be able to be assertive in the space of other people. It's to trust in yourself. And so that's the difference. You're in competition with nobody. So then we realized, this is what it is. That's why the Polish can go somewhere and they can live 20 in a room. The Chinese can do the same, and before you know it, they've taken over a whole street. Because primarily they had their languages, they had their culture, their traditions, their history. So there's that level of trust. And then as adults, that exerts over into the economy. So before they say, oh, I need a bottle of water, I'm going to go out. Before they say, I'm going to go out to another ethnicity to spend my money, we're going to circulate that money around to make sure we found that bottle of water before we do that with somebody else. So we thought, okay, if that's the case, and we're not going to just teach our children about their language and their history, but also going to teach them things like human psychology, financial literacy, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, all the things that it takes to be self-sufficient, and not have somebody narrate your definition or, you know, help you navigate and find your purpose, but you know exactly what that is, and you do that with a self-confidence, so to speak. So then we eventually got to the place where we thought, you know, we've been here for a while, I think we should go back home. And that was originally that was his vision, but we were just like, no, we can't. We're always going home, and we're like, oh, you know, we'd like to go back home. We can see slow progress, but we also have a part that we need to play. So that's how we ended up here. Has it been perfect? No. Has it been an experience? Absolutely. We're learning as we go along, and we're glad we're able to sort of give back as well.
So, and you all have a YouTube channel that has chronicled that transition, right? So that'll be the show notes, but tell us the address, or it's Destination Africa is the YouTube channel, right?
It's Destination Africa Group TV.
Okay, got it. So that'll be in the show notes. But I love how you put that, because everything about what you're saying about the cooperation that is necessary and the confidence, you know, in ourselves is the difference between when you walk, even coming back, you start to see people don't look you in the eye.
Yes.
And then it's because they think that they're not supposed to.
No.
And, or it's because, myriad of reasons, you know, it's part of it is, you know, I kind of say the Anansi story is not what our story should be, because the tricksterness is what is part of what is endemic in so many mindsets, which is just shadiness, you know, and I think as humans, we understand so much more when we look at each other's eyes.
Absolutely.
And so when someone's not looking you in the eye, then I instantly don't trust them. And so then it becomes a question of, you know, how do you cooperate when so many people have been conditioned not to to come to the table like that. So that's just kind of a nuance of one of those coming back kind of stories. But let's talk a little bit about that landing. So you were established, had a home, had, you know, all these things going on. And were you homeschooling in the UK as well?
Yes.
So you were always But tell us how you, with children.
How do you do it with children?
Relocated. You know, what did it happen, and how did you
transition?
So to speak?
I think for us, there was two sides. For me, it was the planning side. Because, you know, we had a fairly comfortable life in the UK, and what you don't want to do is leave something comfortable to come and struggle, or at least know what you're getting yourself in for. So we started by having trips at least once a year with the children from about 2016 onwards, and then it became twice a year, and then it was for longer periods at a time, you know, not 2 weeks but for a month. They'll bring their homeschooling books with them, start studying. So we were slowly trying to adjust and see, you know, how much of a normal life can we live whilst in brackets on holiday mode, and so on. I'll go to the supermarkets. I had my mobile phone taking pictures of prices, comparing them to seeing, you know, how much money, because I knew how much money we spent on shopping and different things in the UK. How would that translate into Ghana, in the city? That would mean, okay, we need to earn or have a certain amount of money to do so. So for me, as the sort of the financial person in the house, I needed to cover my numbers. Because if there was a gaping hole of, you know what, it's not balancing up, at some point we're going to hit hardship. And you know, it's one thing if I hit hardship and I'm by myself, I can sleep on the floor somewhere. But I'm not going to drag my wife and my children to sleep on floors. So that's how the progress starts. I think for us with the lift and shift, because of the homeschooling, it gave us massive flexibility. You know, we just continued what we done in the UK here, and bar, you know, a few museum trips and a few outings, because I think sometimes the UK was a bit more child friendly from that perspective. You know, they're one of the few things they miss, but other than that, you know, we filled it with other things, with a lot of nature and friends and different activities. So it's like swings and roundabouts, but all in all, they've enjoyed the experience and the transition.
And so you landed here in Accra. So, but you mentioned that Fanti is your background. And Accra is not the land of tree speakers. So tell us a little bit more about your homes and how the people here have received you, like family, in terms of you making that decision.
That's a really good question. So with Accra, we've got the advantage of almost everyone speaking Tree, even though it's not the language of the vicinity, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we came initially, we were looking for somebody to teach us Ga, and there was nobody like in and around.
And it's still difficult.
It's tough, if you were to go to somewhere like Choco or Jamestown, you would be spot for choice. But depending on where you are, you don't readily find like, oh, come, let me do the mini Sanine and all of that. So that's what makes it a bit tough. But with Tree, it was fine because we taught the children. Tree is actually their first language.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So as Michael said, he didn't want to happen to him what he, that would happen to the children. So they learned how to read it, write it, and it helped me learn how to read and write as well.
Okay.
So I remember when we came, I think on the second trip, we asked our son, how did he feel about coming to Ghana? And that time we were, you get the holidays where you come and you're living the holiday life and you're doing the beaches and the sightseeing. Exactly. Yeah. So we're thinking, he's going to say, it's when I went here or when I went there. And he said, do you know what I really loved about this holiday was seeing people that looked like me and was able to speak my language. Yes. And he was 5.
Nice.
And so I think even him as a child felt, I'm welcomed, I'm home.
Right.
And once they felt that, it had a knock-on effect on us.
Yeah.
And then we were just like, this is it. We're where we need to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm part Fanti. And so that's why I ask about your Fanti.
I can see the elimination.
We are one.
We are one. Exactly. So my family's from Amosima, and so we're in the Fanti land.
We are from Winneba.
Okay, not far.
So yeah, I mean, for us, I grew up in both parents are Fanti.
Yes.
One Winneba, Cape Coast area.
Okay.
So I think when we were younger, they used to speak Fanti to us in the house.
Yeah.
But I think as we grew, Fanti became less, and they spoke it less, and we weren't formally trained in it.
Right.
So you pick up what you hear.
Yeah.
So when it came to tidy up your bedroom, put some rice on the fire, go to the shops. I know those words, but if it came to deep conversation about proverbs or even politics or different things, I was lost.
Yeah.
So that was it, and I think sometimes that purpose, I think our parents would always speak to us in Fanti and then allow us to reply back in English.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, looking back at it, was something that was detrimental to our development and understanding. Because there's a difference between understanding a language when you hear it and also being able to process in your mind, create the sentence and the structure, and to also express yourself, which is 50% of conversation and interaction. So that was lost on me. It's only after I met Abena that I said, I need to learn. I need to learn a language. So I learned Tree just because I could find more tutors, I could find more resources, people around to help and so on. So that side of things changed my trajectory. Because when I first came, people were like, Ekow. But there was always the thing that, Freya Bro Tree, he's from abroad, he lives in London.
Yes.
And many people didn't think I could speak Tree or didn't regard it much. But when I started learning, I was practicing literally every day on the phone. And they came like, hey, Oti Tree Papa, Tree Papa, dear. Which is, he's doing well, he's learned the language.
Yes.
I personally felt within myself a sense of acceptance. Which was different. And you only realize it once you've been coming, and you're like, so up until this point, you just saw me a stranger. We're one blood, but you saw me.
True.
But now you accept me because now I can understand the language, and that was for me a real turning point.
Sure. So we kind of covered the why, the where.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned in the introduction, we're in this exotic park. So why the where of this particular place, and this as part of what your brand is about?
Okay. So fortunately, before we came, we had, like you said, had the lifestyle, how we were going to assimilate, how we'd fit in and everything else. My dad came back in 81. So time of the coup and when things were really tough and
That's a tough decision.
It was a tough decision, sis. And at one point they almost changed their minds and decided to go back. But there was a difference in the way that he saw people really kind of struggling over in the West, and he thought, it's bad here, but I'm just going to keep pushing and see how. So with that, eventually things started to get better for him progressively over here. by the time we were ready to come home, he had managed to lay a foundation strong enough for us to have something to
come back into. Okay. And that is this. Okay. So folks, we are in an area called Westlands. I think Westlands is a new name because it would just be just West Legon.
Don't ask me where these young people.
So it's West Legon, which is just kind of west of the University of Ghana, Legon. And so it's kind of a hilltop. So it has like great vistas, but it's one of the newer areas, quickly becoming congested, traffic. But what we're looking at a beautiful garden that is now an event space. It's home and event space. So it's just lovely. So folks, if you have an event here in Accra, don't mind, it won't be too much traffic. You can have it here. There'll be a link to the space so that you'll see all of that. But yes, that's where we are.
This is where we are, and we cater for everything. We also have a great Airbnb, which is
nice.
So 5-bedroom. People calling from abroad to book, and we look after all your needs. So in addition to having your children immerse themselves in the culture and find independence in themselves, we do have this for those who are coming, all the diasporans. So you have a home to come to, and you're going to drop it in the
in the show notes. But no, go ahead, please plug.
Okay, all right, cool. So yes, absolutely. So for your wedding needs, for your accommodational needs, everything, even for just a getaway to just refresh, revitalize,
staycation.
Exactly.
There's a pool.
The pool, backup power, security, everything. One thing we realized was, when you come home, you don't want to come home and feel like you've dropped 2 or 3 levels down. You're not in a secure place. You don't have power. You don't have this, especially when you're in town for a week or 2. So, we take care of all those things for you just to ensure that it's seamless. And, you just have to worry about enjoying yourself and fulfilling your mission of your journey. So.
There you have it. The exotic part.
The exotic part.
The exotic
I got you, girl.
Yes, you do. Okay, so let's talk about Glocal Speak.
Okay.
So this is where I ask you to share a word, phrase, or saying that is a meaningful part of your local experience and why or how you've come to value it as Glocal Speak.
Ooh, gosh, now that's the question. We have had so many questions on our rounds of interviews and this is a new one. And I'm not going to forget this. I love it. So Glocal Speak, and that word in itself, Glocal, only you. I love it. Okay, so something that's helped us or something that's
what resonates, if it helped you, just as something that just comes up into your mind and says, this makes me feel local. It's words that I hear all the time or use all the time.
Okay, all right. So mine's going to be a bit cliche, I think. But even when we were in the UK, we used to hear the word Sankofa a lot. Everybody had Sankofa on their, like their brands and whatever it was. But when we came here and we started doing like the proverbs and really delving into that with the children, I realized the last part of that was Sankofa Yinchi, which just translates to going back to grab your roots, or what your inheritance is in your heritage isn't something that should be despised. You have to, it's almost your birthright to go back and grab what belongs to you. So now when I see Sankofa, it reads completely different to what I used to.
And because you're living it.
Exactly. So everything about what I see, the culture, how to cultivate food, how to get to know my Ewe brother, my Gan brother, my Hausa brother, like all of that is mine for the taking. So if I see it and I can grab it, then I just take it. So I think mine would be Sankofa Yinchi.
Okay.
Like you're saying, with the proverbs, so many proverbs come floating back in my mind. I'm trying to pick one. I think for me, it'll have to be a song. So there's a song.
You're just trying to outdo me.
Which is Imra Sisa. So time changes. So it's a song by the Royal Ekow Band, I think. Don't quote me on it. But it's a song where
Imra Sisa.
So time changes. So the guy is in the school and he's in the classroom and he's speaking to the students and he's telling them that, right now you're in a class, you're all studying. I send you to go and get water. I I instruct you to collect bamboo, sweep the compound and everything. Right now you're students, but time changes for everybody. One day, some of you are going to be going out there doing big things. Some of you will be in my spot here teaching other people. And it was a song that we used to sing, actually play to the children when they were younger in the UK, and to actually play it in Ghana with them and to explain to them that time is changing and it's constantly changing. You know, my parents or you know, your grandparents left Ghana for a better life for us, for our generation. We've experienced a better life, but now we want to come back and enjoy that better life with them on the continent, and not just saying it and, you know, living it elsewhere, but to be part of that renaissance, that change. So time changes, you know. I don't look at people and say, oh, you know, why do they want to leave? Because everyone's situation is different. But, you know, for us in our time has changed. It's time for us to come back and do what we can to impact the continent.
Okay, wow. I like those.
Yeah, thank you. You should have made him sing the song.
I know. I was about to sing. I was like, can you drop a note? But I'll put a link to it. We'll look at it and we'll put a link to the song in the show notes.
We don't want to lose viewers.
So let's get down to business.
Okay.
So a little bit more about how the business of Destination Africa actually works, right?
Okay.
So you have this education background in the homeschooling piece, and so language is a big part of it. The space here is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So business-wise, what does the scaffold look like?
Right. Oh, that's a good question. Right. So we started business primarily when we were in the UK, and we were teaching all the core topics that I mentioned earlier on in the UK.
Yeah.
When we were coming to Ghana, we didn't quite know how that would translate.
Right.
And I think our mindset was that we were going to leave the UK and leave those that we had found in the UK and then come and start business afresh in Ghana. Like having to find new customers, new patronizers, everything.
Sure.
Right. So when we met a few diasporans, we realized that, or maybe what we didn't envisage, was that people have links. So if you're coming from America, you have a link to America. If you're coming from Canada, you have a link, and then so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we combined all of those people in a group, a WhatsApp group. You can put those down for the parents who might want to join as well.
Yeah.
And we made it very topical. So we would start by talking about various things that would affect different parents. And then when those were received in terms of what they were really struggling with, we put all of that into an online packaging so that those in the diaspora wouldn't feel left out. So they can access those courses from abroad. It's progressive, and so it goes up in various levels, which are the financial literacy, the tree, the proverbs, ancient African myths. So all of those things. You can purchase those, and then, you know, like we say, we've got 4-year-olds that, you know, could tell you about cryptocurrency, financial literacy, debt management, you know, all of those things. And these are things that they don't fundamentally teach you in school.
Right.
So you would leave, you know, knowing how to add 1 + 1, but you don't know how to balance a checkbook. And it's all of these things these are life skills, they're survival skills.
Sure.
So I think that's how the business has translated from the UK to here.
And we've definitely pushed to go online more. Because one thing we found is, you know, Africans are everywhere. You know, there's somebody in the middle of Montana, Wyoming, in a small town, probably the only black child in their class. But you know what? You're African.
Yes.
And it's our responsibility as parents to ensure that our children get a cultural education.
Right.
And we want to make it available to those in Ghana and Africa, but by all means, we don't want to leave any African outside of that space. Anyone of a mixed heritage outside that space. People who are not African who want to find out more about Africa in that space. So that's why we put it in the online platform so that it's accessible to everyone and they can join that wider community and, you know, make friends. I think one time we had one of our classes and we were doing an entrepreneurship term, and they learnt about entrepreneurship, working in partnership, businesses and everything. And one of the mothers came to me and said, you know what, my son came to me this week and he said, what business should I do for this end of term fair? And she said she almost dropped her cup because her son has had no interest in business, no interest in doing anything along those lines. He just wants to play and so on. But because he heard about Asade's got his keyring business, Insho's got her bowls business, this one's got popcorn and popsicles. Now his mindset is tuned to wanting to create and make something.
Sure.
And that's the power of community. And why not use the tools available to us to connect us, especially those in remote places and who don't have strong African communities or connections. And that became one of our driving missions as well.
So as you look at your community, so you mentioned the diaspora is a huge source of that. How are you integrating with local, I want to say, education organizations or any of those kinds of organizations to kind of, because we know who we are as the diasporans, but we also, as we were kind of chatting before starting the interview, there is a deficit of this kind of confidence and of this kind of knowledge locally. So how are you seeing yourself kind of rolling out and drawing in kind of those not returnee or diaspora types of families?
Yeah. So when we do the Destination Africa classes here, it's open to everybody.
Okay.
And that's people who have lived here all their lives to diasporans who are now coming in. It's actually the other way around. There's a further reach for those who are on the outside to get them then to reach those
We have things we do for those the underprivileged. So we have orphanages that we work with and just places that not everybody can access this type of education, and where possible we try to provide it for them. We've worked with partner organizations who've sponsored the cost or the fees, just so that they can get a taste of what it's like to have a different group come in and to teach them about Africa, about pride within their self, and so on. So hopefully it will go a long way, and we try to repeat that periodically as well.
So what's your vision? How does Destination Africa scale? So you're based here in Accra. How do you scale?
Sure. So, there's many tentacles coming out of Destination Africa. The vision is to get to the parent wherever they are, the Afro parent wherever they are, to really empower their parenting journey. Yeah. So that would come in the way of podcasts, in the way of webinars, in the way of programs that we're about to prepare, the online resources, and then also collaborating with other people who are in the same space, like the same sphere, in the same industry, to make sure that we're reaching those people. Okay. So it's far and wide, and it's definitely generational. But I think what we're doing now is we're trying to level the ground so that the children coming after us could then continue the work.
Okay. And that's realistic.
Because our motto is empowering parents and building the learners of tomorrow. And so, as Abena said, you have to level the ground, because we have all had a level of conditioning. Whether you've lived on a continent or you've lived abroad, that colonialized mindset is affecting us in different ways. Primarily with our value system, with how we value ourselves, our language, our heritage, our history. And because of that, we've started at a deficit. And sometimes we have to, from the parental perspective, realize that we are the drivers of tomorrow. We are impacting the next generations and generations to come through our actions today. And there's an urgency to it. There's a call to action. You can't wait 6 months. I'll wait until my child finishes their French and their Spanish and their Mandarin before I learn about who I am. That approach is doomed to fail. So we have to raise that awareness and get people to realize that this is the time to shape and change generations. And from that, some parents are on that journey, just getting on that journey, and some are ready and a call to action. So that's where we have the online academy. We have the interactive online sessions, the on-demand sessions where you can do it in your own time, and just combining all these things. And as Abena says, partnering with a wider network, because our aim and our mission is to transform the African continent. And that starts in the mind first of those living on the continent and in the diaspora to affect in positive ways, because all that together drives multiple things: self-esteem and commerce. And that's where a lot of people wake up and they realize, the commerce side is when they want to pay attention, but the work is done before. It's like as you decide, I want a mango tree, I want to eat a mango. You know that mango is years away, but what do? You pick a good point where we get lots of sunlight. You plant that, you nurture that seed, put it in the ground. It takes a season or two for the baby ones to start before the real mangoes come. And that's the groundwork we're trying to put in for Destination Africa.
I have something that I'm going to make public now that I believe that we should work together on.
Oh.
And one thing you didn't mention, and kind of given that we're in this new election cycle, and that globally we have this, we can't ignore the fact that policy influences everything that we do.
Sure.
And the politics do. So I'm going to challenge us
Ooh,
to
she's
create.
got a challenge, guys.
Yes, I'm going to challenge us to create a civics course.
Right. Ooh, this is interesting. So you said you were going to come and interview us. You didn't say you got a challenge.
Well, I've had this on mind, and you're kind of in this space where this is where the partnerships start.
Sure thing.
And particularly around, I think where Ghanaian education is lacking, and the reason why we have this democracy that has failed is because people do not really understand what democracy is, starting from a very young age. Definitely. If I look at the books that my nieces, nephews are reading, civics is not serious.
It's not there.
Right. And that's globally. Because I remember growing up and having a civics class. So I understood, everything about the political system. So I could actually understand why this is doing this or that kind of whatever. That has totally been erased purposefully, obviously. But, in empowering children and parents with that kind of information, I think we start to move the dial on the structures that we have here, right? So even the fact that children now know will help them not to just fall in line and vote for a party that doesn't represent what they need or what they want.
Or even
it sets an expectancy, isn't it?
Right.
Of what they're looking for, definitely. Or even just vote, because that person has been placed there for you to vote for.
Exactly.
So so last week, was it 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Today. We took the children to Parliament, House of Parliament.
Okay, so
See, the synergy.
Right, exactly.
So the reason I'm buying into what she's saying, it's like she knew something. And they, so it started off as a day of going for a tour and just maybe seeing what happens in Parliament. And then we were fortunate enough to have somebody that we know have just bring various really prominent politicians come to the children, their level of understanding, and just have the children ask them questions. And in advocacy, demanding to know what they intend to do about the potholes, poverty, buying from our own resources and things like that. And you could see after that they had such an appreciation and even an accountability and responsibility for what is needed to be done in the country. So it's really interesting, but then it goes back to what you were saying about working as a co-op or a cooperation. When we taught that in financial literacy, the last 2 seasons, you've got to do your own research as well. So we found out that the word cooperation in Chi is in Kabum. She's showing off.
Well, I only know a few words, so I just happen to know that one.
Be modest, So but in Kabum, so then you think, okay, what do I need for in Kabum? My eyes, me niaka, me shine, me tinka, me de me huakam, yenfa ye hon Kabum. So you realize you need all your 5 senses. But to do that, that means that we teach children, good eye contact, good body language, speaking loud and clear. So all that with your voice, your eyes, your nose, the touch, all of that is needed in an individual. And then all of it's also needed because you need to be my eyes, I need to be your sense of smell, this person needs to be my sense of touch. So it's all in the language. And if we don't fundamentally understand what our languages are, it puts us at a deficit from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So in doing this, it would be really nice to just incorporate. This is why the Sankofa Yenchi it's just so poignant to my heart, because it's everything that we need, but then we don't realize it and we leave what we have and then go outside of ourselves to go and, look for it. So when Michael says that there's that urgency, the time is now to place that importance on grabbing who you are. The fact that you want your child to learn French before they discover who they are, you've put yourself at a disadvantage already, because a French guy is not interested in what you speak, and rightfully so. Definitely. So let's do this. Let's take up the challenge. And let's definitely just sangofayenji.
Right. Exactly. So speaking of, let's talk about mindset.
Sure thing.
So I want to ask about a mindset hack.
Okay.
So what is your favorite or an interesting one that you practice, or one that you can imagine?
You go first.
Oh, ladies first.
I think first too.
A mindset hack. I would say take control. Take control. I say, sometimes, when you grow up in an African household, there is that thing of, parents can do no wrong, adults can do no wrong. So you just sort of sit and take whatever happens. And sometimes we carry that on into adulthood. There's no line where you're adolescent and now you're an adult and now your views and opinions are directly respected. You can speak without fear. And we carry that on into when we have children.
Yeah.
So what happens is we now become that authoritarian and the children can't do or say anything right. So it's about taking control and realizing that, there's a time when your parents put you in a school, whether you like the school or not. They didn't really ask your opinion. They bought these clothes or these shoes for you because that's what they liked. And now it's time for you to take control.
Yeah.
You are now the guardian of the next generation. Take control, make decisive decisions. They don't have to be big initially, but take one step in the right direction, stick to it, and watch your life transform. So
like that.
that's my mindset.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. That's
Yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah.
I think mine would probably be encouraging the children to critical think. So question
Critical
everything.
thinking.
Yeah, everything. Don't just accept something because this is what we're telling you it is. Let's sit down, let's have a conversation, let's see if we can evolve, develop and do this a better way or a different way and get different results. So I think for a long time as a people, we have survived in fear. It's as simple as that. You go to school and there's a fear of success, and that success has to come in a particular way. It has to come through academics. You can't do creatives because that means you're not very clever.
Right.
Or or everything is in fear. From when we wake up to the way we study to our religions. It's very much. It was given to us, and many people do it because there's a fear of getting into heaven or going to hell. Everything is done in fear almost. So it's really questioning, was what brought to me benefiting me? Why was it brought to me? Who brought it to me? And all of those questions would allow us to really sit down and dissect and decide as to whether or not it's benefiting us, and if not, as a people collectively, what are we doing about it and how are we moving forward?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like it. So, folks,
she has a smile.
I do. So, a lot of what we talked about has been the serious stuff of the movement and all of that. But I would like to kind of veer off into the fun side of who you are. And I ask this question mostly, and it could be basically the idea is what you do when you're not working or being the Destination Africa heads. But I typically ask, are you a reader, are you a watcher, or you a listener? And what are some of your favorite reads, watches, or listens?
Ooh, okay. I am...
And you can be more than one.
Oh, okay. I would like to be more of a reader, but with the children and the work, there's not much time right now.
Yeah.
So right now, I'd say I'm more of a watcher.
Okay.
As in when that time permits, then definitely.
Sure. That too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've started Destination Africa, or we're trying to input into the children. I like to gain sources from where people have the same interests, and they're also trying to impart and impact children's lives in a different way, just so that what we're teaching them is diverse and it's coming from different influences, different thoughts, different mindsets and things like that.
Yeah.
What I would like to do once where everything has been established in Ghana, I think, is to just do a few more sports, get out there, walks. There's just so many places in Ghana to see. So yeah, that's it. And also we have to balance it with the children's interests as well.
Right.
So
That's always,
yeah. So the children they're keen swimmers. They like to go out, do different things like go-karting and things like that. So yeah, I'm a mum of many hats at the minute.
Of course.
But yeah, and there's things that I would like to do. But for now, I'm a watcher and making sure my children have fun.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, similar. Like Abena said, it's so much part of our lives. And it's hard to separate the two. So our fun is fitting it into the other part. So I tend to do a lot of physical activities with the children. So bike riding, I tend to do the swimming.
Yeah.
Anything that's probably physical in that nature, probably a bit of art. So I like art. I like doodling. Went to art school when I was younger. So yeah, abstract art is some of my relaxation place.
Okay.
So that's something I enjoy. And I'm a watcher. IT is always changing. I like technology. I like renewable resources, ways to live cleaner, smarter, healthier, and just tuning into those and computer and IT systems and just seeing what are the latest trends.
Okay.
So
he's a nerd.
She can say that.
I can say
that. Minus the glasses.
Well, guys, this has been so lovely. I really appreciate all of your insights, just your energy. It's so beautiful, and I'm so thankful. So before we sign off, do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I would like to say thank you so much for coming down. It's been such an interesting conversation, and I just love the way that you place your questions, because it makes us think, primarily about what we're doing, and it just goes deep. So yeah, that was great. I think the last thing I would personally like to leave our audience is, guys, tune in, get as many subscribers in here as possible, because you're doing something really fundamental for the community.
Thank you.
It's just amazing.
Thank you.
And power in numbers. So let's get together, where we find somebody doing something like this, let's get behind Florence and ensure that we're building a generation that has something to hold on to, something really strong, level playing, and to just say that, we started a good race and you guys are going to finish it. So
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to say what Abena said, but I'm going to come from a different angle. Some people like the soft message. And I'm here to give you the medicine without the sugar.
Okay.
So, parents, a call to action. If you have children of African descent, mixed heritage, and your skin is dark in complexion, do your children know about who they are? Are your children in touch with their culture and their heritage? Whatever you do right now, it's your responsibility to provide a roof over their head, and education for them, and happiness and wellness for them. But it also is your responsibility to provide and connect them with the heritage in which they came from. Teach them about their languages, their heritage, their culture, their history, their family, and much more. Expose them to the continent of Africa, because that is what builds true confidence. And hopefully at Destination Africa, we've provided a platform and a community to help people do that. So a call to action. Start today. Don't put it off to tomorrow, because when you put it off, what you're saying is it's not that important. If I said tomorrow, I'm going to give you £50,000, if you walk 10 miles, you would find a way to do it. Make that drive be within you to make sure your children are in good stead for the next generation.
I love that. That was the mic dropping.
Literally.
Literally. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right, folks, this has been another episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Please do like, share, subscribe. Check out the show notes. They're always rich. Always rich. And until next time, bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh.